Živijo, tukaj je Anže, poslušate podcast Aparatus, kjer legitimni člani družbe povejo, kaj počnejo v življenju. Tole pa je 116. epizoda Aparatusa, o kateri sem govoril z Oisínom Prendivillom, ki je irski programer, dela aplikacije za Mac in pa za iOS, se pravi za iPhone. Sem ga pa imel šanso v bistvu spoznati v Ljubljani, ker je nekaj mesecev celo kle delal, ker zmeraj dela nadaljavo. Tako da sem se malo pogovarjal, kako točno je razvijati aplikacije, kako tako on živi, ker non-stop potuje in podobno. Naprej začnemo, kot vedno, ful hvala vsem, ki podpirate Aparatus. Če tega še niste naredili, lahko to naredite tako, da greste na aparatus.si/podpri oziroma na /salca. Tam lahko dobite polona šalco, to so res fajn šalce, ker jih polona dela in lahko jo pa nabavite v trgovini IKA ali pa na njihovi spletni strani. Tako da še enkrat ful hvala vsem, ki podpirate, drugače pa to je več ali manj to, zdaj pa Oisín. Because it's 7:15 a.m. here, and I am awake, barely.
10:15 here, p.m.
Yeah, p.m., which is what, Vancouver. Well, we'll get to that. Anyway, my first question, which is always the same. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Oisín Prendiville. I'm one half of Supertop. I work with my friend and partner, Padraig O'Canada. We make apps for Mac and iOS. So on Mac we have Tokens and Top Hat, and on iOS we have Castro, which is a podcast app, and on Red, RSS reader.
All right. So we'll get to the apps soon, but
sure.
First your name, because I have a weird name when Americans listen to this. So and you have a weird name even when I
yes,
listen to it.
I definitely have a weird name.
Yeah. So you're from Ireland, right?
Yeah, from Dublin.
Is that a normal name in Ireland or? How does that work?
Yeah, it's pretty normal.
Ah, okay.
Especially these days. Lots of kids seem to be called it.
Seriously, awesome.
Yeah, it's always strange now. More and more I walk down the street in Dublin, anytime I hear anybody call out the name Oisín, I get very confused. Because when I was growing up, I heard it very rarely. Well, and only when it was directed at me. So I get very confused when I see kids called Oisín.
Yeah, because I've seen the name before, right? But I just never figured it was like an Irish thing. Because Ireland has a lot of sort of peculiarities, at least to my ear, starting with the accent, which is awesome. But I just never figured it was an actual like Irish name because it doesn't sound like any.
Yeah, no, it comes from like this old legend of Oisín and Tiernanog. Tiernanog means like land of the young. There's a whole very long story about it that we don't need to get into. But basically, an old Irish legend.
Oh, okay. No, that. Okay, so keeping with the geography theme, right? You're in Vancouver now, right?
Now, until tomorrow, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we actually met in person in Ljubljana in Slovenia, which makes no sense. So why were you there? Like, why were you in Ljubljana?
In Slovenia? Yeah. Oh well, it's for a year. For the past like 15 or 16 months, I haven't had a full-time apartment in Dublin anymore. Whenever I go to Ireland, I stay with friends and family. And I've mostly been traveling and working from like different locations around the world. And Slovenia is just a very special place for me. I have some good friends there, and I hadn't been there until this summer when I went there and met you. I think it was 7 years since I had been there, but I've been there like 4 or 5, maybe more times before, and I have some good friends there who I wanted to go spend some time with. So that's what brought me there.
Yeah, because that was just weird. Because I've heard of Castro before, right? So then, I don't know, somebody on Twitter, right, just put us in a tweet together, I think, from Slovenia, who somehow knew.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you were here. So like when you say you don't have like a full-time apartment, that's a great.
Well, I don't actually have any apartment. I don't know why I said full-time.
So like when you work, you just like move around. Because I don't know, I just wanted to ask you about that stuff because that seems insane to me to just be in a different place all the time and, program, I guess. How does that work?
It depends on the location. I mean, it's been a pretty interesting year. I mean, in theory, my idea is that I want to like spend like a few months in each place so that like I find a place to live and a place to work from and get my stuff done and get into routine. In practice, I've been moving around a lot more frequently than every few months this year. But I mean, I either work from where I'm staying or like co-working places. And so in Ljubljana, there's Polygon. I work from there for almost for the whole 3 months that I was there. When I was in Thailand, I worked from a co-working space there as well. And in Canada, Padraig, who I work with, he's an Irish guy as well, but just today actually became a Canadian citizen, and he's been living here for the past few years. So I come over here. This was my first time this year, but like once or twice a year, spend some time here with him and actually get some work done in person, which is always remarkable how much we can get done in a few weeks when we're so used to being far apart.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to ask you about that. Like, so how, I guess harder is not the right word, or maybe it is. Is it when you work remotely? Like compared to when you guys are in the same room? It
depends what we're working on. Usually, I mean, we definitely are like much more productive when we are in the same room. And we usually try to time it that like, I mean, it's when we are together is when we get to like, it's easier to make big decisions about products or about features. Once like we're at a stage in a project where we know exactly what has to be done. I mean, like, so I'm going back to Ireland tomorrow for Christmas, and I mean, we know what has to be done over the next few weeks. So, well, not that much probably over Christmas, but like after Christmas, we know exactly what we want to be doing. And once it gets to that point and it's about implementing things, it's not so difficult to be in separate countries. I mean, I think there's definitely like some disadvantages there, but it's kind of, it's either this or, well, I guess we just have to put up with it because I don't want to live in Vancouver.
No. Well, that's a ringing endorsement, but yeah.
Oh, I love visiting here, but even Ljubljana or Dublin or any of the places where I've spent time this year, there's no one place where I want to stay rooted. So, I guess Padraig has enough patience to put up with me.
So how did you guys meet? Did you guys meet back in Ireland, or how did that start about?
Yeah, we met in university. We were in the same course in university just for 1 year. He had enough of the course and left after a year. I stuck around for the 4 years. And then we had some friends in common. We didn't see each other for a long time, actually. And the first time that we got back in touch, he was the first person with an iPhone the first iPhone I ever saw in my life was Padraig's. I met a friend of mine, and Padraig was with him, who I knew just vaguely from like the time that we were in university for a year together. This was a good few years after at this stage. But he had this iPhone that he had picked up on a trip to LA, and I was mesmerized by the thing. And then when I got one later that year at Christmas that year, and I needed to like figure out how to. They weren't officially out in Ireland then. I had to figure out how to. I'm not even sure if it was called jailbreaking or what it was called back then, but I had to figure out basically how to get it working. So I phoned up Padraig late one night, got his number from my friend, and phoned him up and said, "You got to help me." So we kind of stayed in touch after that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you probably just worked on the American carrier. So I imagine it was the first one, or which one was it?
Yeah, it was the first one. Yeah, it was like just the AT&T one.
Yeah, the well-built one, I think. That's
a nice one, yeah.
Yeah. I just had it in my hands a couple of weeks ago. I did a thing here for a TV station about the history of the smartphone, and they somehow got their hands on a really well-preserved one.
Okay. Yeah, a friend of mine in Ireland was using one up until a year or two ago. It was not well-preserved. It was completely, but it looked incredible. It was amazing. It was beautiful. It was completely destroyed, but it looked so good.
Yeah. That phone is a little special because of the metal on the back. It's kind of they've never done anything quite like that, I think, like with any other of the subsequent phones. Maybe the last couple of ones, but even I don't know.
Yeah, the 5S kind of a little bit, I guess. But.
Oh yeah, okay, that's a fair point. So when you say you were mesmerized by it, like what does that mean? Because we're not all programmers, you know that, right? Like, what does mesmerized by the iPhone mean exactly?
It wasn't even in a programming sense. I was a web developer at the time, and it was a purely aesthetic. It was a purely aesthetic thing. I just wanted to keep touching the thing. Even when I got, it wasn't all that much I could do with the first one I got. It just had to. It wasn't. In retro. Compared to now, you don't have like all the different apps and stuff. But I remember when I had it, I just would sit there and just like swipe the screens and I wouldn't be doing anything particularly productive on it, but it was a device that really captured my imagination, I guess, and started me like wondering like what else could we do with this little screen?
But so you said you were a web developer. So how, so I guess you went to university for that, or?
The university was very general, like it was multimedia.
Okay.
So there was we did some web stuff, some Flash stuff, like video, audio. Well, yeah, there was optional like video, audio, or I did video anyway. I can't remember what the third one was. What makes sense? Video, audio, and that's all. No, I can't remember what modules.
Well, maybe it was something with the web, I guess, because that's the only thing that fits that.
Yeah. No, there wasn't. It was like, so it was pretty general, and then like you would specialize down, and like it was a lot of like project based stuff. And so like by the final year, like we're assessed, like we had no exams basically. Everything was like do projects. I think we had one exam once in the 4 years or something like that. And so it was more like you would like find your teams and like around common interests and stuff like that, and kind of specialize down into whatever areas you wanted.
That actually sounds fun.
I loved it. Absolutely.
So how was that transition then from doing web stuff to trying to figure out how to make an app? And because I don't know, you see, like I know just enough web development to sort of put up a site and then destroy it a couple of times, right? Like I've never gone that deep on it.
Yeah.
And then so any kind of I guess actual programming just seems like magic to me still. Like I've had a couple of programmers on this show, and it's just it's still little elves doing stuff in the computer for me, right? So
yeah, but even certain types of programming like still give me that feeling. Like, I mean, during this time when I've been here in Vancouver, Padraig and a friend of ours, Ryan, have been working on some back ends. I always did front end web stuff. So Padraig and Ryan have been working on some back end web stuff for Castro 2, and they've been getting me getting the local environment set up on my machine here and all this, and it terrifies me. It absolutely terrifies me. And it actually started me thinking again, like just over the past few days, about like the start of like when I started learning Objective-C and iPhone stuff coming from the web. And I think the only reason why, I did it very gradually, or at least in a very structured way. I mean, I followed, basically I was traveling as well at the time, and I had been doing some like web work for clients in Ireland, which I hadn't been in Ireland for a year or something. So a lot of that work was drying up, and I started thinking, it might be fun to like make some iPhone stuff. And I mean, I had like these notions, like a very romantic notions of, you make an app and put it on the App Store and you're going to get loaded. But so I started following like the Stanford University like iTunes U course when I was traveling, and I did it in a very structured way. I just like would sit down and like watch the lectures and do the exercises, and I used to send some of the exercises. Padraig was already a Mac developer at that stage, and we had worked on web stuff together. So when I started learning Objective-C and the iPhone stuff, I would do some of the I would do all of the exercises that they would get people to do as part of the course, and then I would send some of them to Padraig and ask him to like basically let me know what I was doing wrong or if I was like doing things okay.
So actually, just like an iTunes U course, seriously.
iTunes U, yeah.
Wow. Okay, that I don't know. That somehow makes me feel better and worse about like. Yeah, no, but so like that romantic notion that you said you had, right? But like, how prevalent was that, you think, when it all started, when like the App Store started? Because that's always fascinating to me. Because there was a period of time there when everybody figured they could just make loads of money with an app, right? Like, what was that like for you? Like, just from your point of view.
I mean, I'm trying to like remember back, and even. I mean, at the time, I wasn't very like active on Twitter. I wasn't really aware of of a community. I mean, I was pretty isolated. I don't mean that in a very negative way. I just mean like in terms of not involved in a community that was also like doing similar things other than Padraig. So yeah, but I mean, I guess I still like picked up on this, that like the fact that could even get stuck in my head. And I wanted to just keep traveling and start making stuff that I wouldn't have to. Mostly, I just didn't want to have to deal with clients. So I figured, if I make something, it'll be mine. And then And then I released. The first thing I made was this music app called My Artists, which released. And I remember like Mac Stories was new enough at the time, and Federico Vitici, like I did a really nice review of My Artists when it came out, and it did like pretty well. Well, at least like for a few days, but like I had no notion of like the scale or like what to expect of like, okay, this is all going to just like, this is not going to last. You know, like I think I made like $1,000 the first day, and then the second day I made $1,000 again. And I was in Colombia at the time with my girlfriend. My girlfriend from then. We were in Colombia 2 days in a row. I had made $1,000, and I was just sitting there thinking, "Oh, that's it. I'm going to be making." I literally just like multiplied it out. I'm like, that's it. I'm going to be making $365,000 a year for the rest of my life. I'm sorted. That crashed down pretty quick.
Yeah. The classic app sales curve, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't realize yet at the time what I was in for, but you learn quick.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, no, but honestly, like, because I think like nobody knew, right? Like every person that started out with like, I'm gonna make a first step, right? Figure that's not how that goes. But it must be kind of overwhelming, even those 2 days when you just make $1,000, right? Because that was never a thing with software, I guess. Just, you know, because you were just some dude in Colombia at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like how, okay, so when you say you learned quickly, what exactly does that mean? Like what like, I don't want to do the whole, you know, the 3 lessons, you know, I don't want to do that. But like, how quickly did you pick up on what exactly the app store and the whole app ecosystem was for a developer?
I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest. I think, I mean, the only thing I picked up quickly was that, okay, I'm not going to just like make this one thing and all of a sudden like have all this, like just be an overnight success that I'm going to have to like keep working at this for years. And I mean, we're getting by on our stuff now, but I mean, we're still trying to, I mean, partly I still have this image in my head. I still can't completely shake that image that I just want to make nice things. And I'm a terrible business person, and I'm trying to like learn to like be a little bit more pragmatic about things. But like, I mean, my main driving forces are still just, I mean, I mostly just want to make pretty things, and that is ridiculous in some way, but it's just what I'm obsessed with, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good sort of path to take in life, I think. We're all terrible business people. Like, I think that's a given. Like, except for the 3 people that are actually good at business. I think everybody else, at least when you want to make any sort of creative endeavor, I think we're all just doomed on the business side.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, so the apps you guys make now, right? Again, we'll talk about Castro later, but even the Mac stuff. So, like, how do those ideas come about? Because you see, that's the thing. Because everybody has an app idea now, even if it's a Mac app, right? Mm-hmm. But like, when you guys actually have to decide, and at least there's 2 of you, which I imagine it helps, or maybe you can tell me it doesn't. But like, how do you guys like? How did you decide on all the apps you were gonna make?
Well, so we have 4, but 2 of them have like fairly clear kind of origin stories or distinct origin stories, and so like Tokens is the first app that me and Padraig made together, essentially. So it's a Mac app for basically for generating promo codes through iTunes Connect and putting web URLs on them so that it's easier when you send them out to journalists or to friends or whatever, and you can see which ones have been used based on. Basically, we just track the link. Yeah,
because you see, I don't know how you come up with that, right? I do understand, like you have to at least know there's a need for it. I mean, I do understand if like stuff like that would be useful to you guys, right? But how do you decide?
Yeah, and I think like when we started making it, not sure if we looked too much past that. I mean, we didn't do like market analysis or any of this kind of stuff. It was, I don't think we even, I mean, it wasn't even that at the time we were like, oh, we're going to set up a business together and we're going to do this. And like in 4 years, we're going to have 4 apps, and in 5 years, we're going to have whatever. It was more like it was it started just as like, let's see if we can, do you want to make something together and see what happens? And it took us 6 months to make, and I don't think we even necessarily thought it was going to take 6 months when we started. So it was kind of just, okay, this seems like a reasonable enough idea. Let's like spend a few months working on it. And it purely out of like personal need and, surely like that'll work out for us. See, I told you, I'm not learning, I haven't learned these lessons. I mean, I guess one thing that like focused our attention a little bit was that we had decided we wanted to make like tools we wanted to make some kind of a developer tool. And we started out with the idea of basically, we were just so annoyed with iTunes Connect and anything we did in iTunes Connect web interface. So the initial idea was like a Mac app to essentially like replace most of like nearly everything. That the idea was that like anything that you usually have to log into iTunes Connect to do, you should be able to just do it in this like native Mac interface. And we'll like save local copies and all this, and then there'll be like a button basically to, okay, now like upload this. And instead of you ever going into iTunes Connect, it would like do all the, basically it was, I mean, at least the first version, it was pretty ugly what it had to do to make it work. I mean, it was a lot of HTML scraping, but we had the sense to like pare that back a little bit. We're like, okay, let's just do the promo code part first, and then we'll see afterwards. I mean, iTunes Connect has improved in lots of ways through the years, though. And it took us 6 months just to do the promo code thing, so I don't want to think about what would have happened if we tried to do everything at once.
Yeah, you'd still be working on it, probably.
Yeah. And then, so that went okay, and we ended up still wanting to work together. And for Castro, it was like around the time when we both went to San Francisco for WWDC in 2013. We had been planning on starting a new project, and we were going to make another Mac app. I can't even remember what it was, but we went to San Francisco, went to the conference. iOS 7 was announced, and then I came up here to Vancouver afterwards. And the plan had been that we would go to San Francisco, then come up here and like start planning our next Mac app. But when iOS 7 was announced, and it was such a visual change of direction, or that kind of made us think, okay, if we're starting a new project now, this week, the week after WWDC, straight after iOS 7 has been announced, we would be crazy to just go doing a Mac app right now. Maybe like if we're ever going to do an iOS app, now is the time to do it.
Oh, so iOS 7 was an actual factor, like the whole. Wow, okay.
Yeah, 7 was a big thing. For us, at least. Why?
Well, the visual stuff, I guess, but there must have been something.
I think it was because we saw that it was going to be. We were already kind of wrapped up enough that like it was going to be something for one of Apple's platforms essentially, and like with all the attention that iOS was getting at the time, and that fact, the visual changes and some of like the metaphors that they had introduced, like, and the different something about it just made us think, if we're going to like start something new, let's like focus on this. And then we started throwing around ideas. And I think like the other thing was that like tokens had been doing okay, but it was like really pretty niche. I mean, it was a developer tool, but even for as a developer, it's not something that you're going to use every day. It's like every once in a while you might need it. So, but it did give us the confidence to kind of think, to feel good that we could like make something decent. And so on iOS, we were both into podcasts at the time and not crazy about the apps that were there. And I think the fact that we had tokens under our belts, I'm not sure if like before that, if we would have felt comfortable enough to say like, oh, let's make a podcast app. I might have thought it was too big of a challenge or something, but for whatever reason at the time, it seemed like, okay, I think we can do it. So we wanted to make something that like people who did use it were going to like. We wanted to make something that people were going to be using a lot more than
a niche developer tool, I guess.
Yeah.
So but how did you settle on like? Well, yeah, that's one aspect of it, for people to use it a lot, right? But like, did you guys both listen to a lot of podcasts? Because I think like most people that make a podcast app must really, really, really like podcasts, or anybody that makes them like me, right? I'm not sure you go into this with just, there's this podcast thing happening, right? Let me get in on that, right?
Yeah. I was listening to, I think at the time, everything I was listening to was on 5x5. And yeah, I was listening to like quite a lot of, well, actually at the time it seemed like a lot. But I probably listen to a lot more now than I did then, and definitely to a lot more variety of stuff than I used to then. But it was, I was listening to podcasts every day. So yeah.
I was the same way before I started all of this, whatever the hell this is. But yeah. So when you guys finally decided on a podcast client, right? And you said, I guess you had the confidence from tokens, but like, how was that? See, this is a weird question. I have it written down weird now, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like, how, when you started, like, when you released Castro, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like, it wasn't the only podcast app, right? Like, how nervous were you then? Because that's the thing that gets to me. Like, when it's a niche thing, right? You can always say, well, it's a niche thing, right? But like a podcast app is pretty much like a much broader, I think. So I just wanted to know, like, what were you guys thinking before you released it? Sort of, what would actually happen to it in the App Store?
Yeah.
Because, you see, that's the thing that always fascinates me. Because when you're like a consumer, I guess, you just see new stuff. You know, Federico Vitici reviews something, right? So there's a new app. But like behind every app, right, there's like 7 people just losing their minds probably, right, on that first day.
Oh, on the day of the launch? Oh, yeah. The actual day.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, that was... Yeah, that's always pretty stressful.
Yeah, what does that just walk me through that. Like, what was it like for you guys? Because I'm genuinely interested in that. Because I think it's one of those, one of those layers in the whole, app developer story that sort of gets forgotten because it's such a concentrated thing.
It's kind of a strange day, like, because obviously, by that point. Well, at least for us with the first version of Castro, anyway, by that stage, we had put 6 months of work into it. And you're putting a lot of pressure on this first day. And obviously you wanted to, that it's like, that you want to build something that will sustain like past, like just the initial launch buzz or whatever. But the first step is that like that launch day has to go pretty well, or at least you've placed like a lot of expectations on it. It's very hard to focus on anything that day. Reviews start coming out and I find myself just only even seeing a headline and not even having to, like, my brain is so scattered at that point and I'm already looking at some support email that's coming in or looking at tweets and looking at different things and articles, like a few, like, I'm not trying to say that there's like so many articles that I can't possibly read them. It's just that my brain can't focus like long enough to sit and read a whole review. It's usually like the next day or the day after that I will finally read them properly. Like the Castro launch day was, because we got a lot more coverage even than we had expected. There was like some people we had been talking to in advance and we were like looking forward and hoping that they were going to post their reviews and they did. And then there was some extra stuff that we got that we never expected. Like Gruber put it on Daring Fireball and then we thought like, oh wow, and a few other things like that. And I think at a certain point, then it was just like, oh, I had like planned to meet up with friends that night, and Padraig ended up going out for dinner with his wife and just not even bringing his phone with him because he was like, oh, there's like too much going on. And like needed to like walk away from it a bit.
Because that must be insane. Like you work for something for like months, right? And then it's out in the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the part that actually fascinates me the most.
But there's a weirdness, like a weird, like it's always a mixture. Well, for me at least, like there's this weird sense of excitement at once, and also some kind of anticlimax. Even when like, all this is going like as well as you could have hoped or whatever. It's like, it just feels like, oh, okay, now that's out.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like, okay. Because it's not...
Now we've been working on, Castro 2, we've been working on Castro 2 now for a year. And it's still going to be a few months away. And so like by the day Castro 2 comes out, I'm not sure what kind of a state I'm going to be in.
Okay, well, one more thing, because I've talked about this with a couple of Slovene developers as well. Like the whole, before it gets launched, sort of talking to journalists and people you want to review the app. Like, what's that process like for you guys? Like, 'cause I imagine now at least they kind of know who you are, but I guess before, Castro, you weren't you were just two dudes, right? Or was enough of a sort of a reputation or whatever from tokens? Was it enough to sort of get your foot into the door with some of the bloggers and like publications?
Yeah, I think even tokens did help us get our foot in the door, definitely in some regards. Like, and now I think with Castro too, or like then Unread, like we've done updates on Unread recently, and I mean, also Unread is an app that we didn't even build it initially. Jared Sinclair made the initial version, and then we bought it off from him last year and took over development of it. So then he had got great coverage for that as well. And so, like, I guess over time, it's not necessarily even just like your like individuals' reputations or whatever. It's kind of like the reputation of the product itself, I guess, kind of can drive a lot. Like, so Unread just as its own thing, like being newsworthy or being like, I'm not sure. Not newsworthy is the wrong word, but I guess just having its own reputation that precedes it, or that like Castro 2 has Castro behind it. Yeah. So like that can help over time.
Yeah, so because it's sort of in the psyche already. So when it shows up, it's not just it's not a random app, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it has some history there. Okay, so just one more thing about Castro. So you guys, well, at least that what it looks like to me, right? You make like really like pretty things. Is that the right word? I don't know how to say that. Like,
I think that was my word.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah. Just like pretty. Like how much effort? How much effort? That's such a douchey question. But like, because the functionality, right, could have been the same. It was just like a really ugly sort of Spartan sort of app, and you guys seem to take really great care of the visual side of it, right? Like, why? You're programmers, if you know what I mean. Like, it's usually that's not how stuff works, right? Or am I just imagining things? Like, why is that?
No, I think there's something wrong in my brain. I can't just, like when I said earlier on, like, oh, I just want to make pretty things. I guess that was me trying to put myself down a little bit as well. But like, it's some kind of an obsession. And I'm not sure if it's healthy, but for example, one thing I'm thinking of is just on a feature that I've been working on while I was here in Vancouver the last few weeks. And some of it was like some transition stuff. And some of it was like this. Yeah. So it was all like transitions, either between different screens or different states of the app. It was all there. By the time, so I would spend days adjusting these transitions a little bit, or like changing like very little, like minute details about how exactly it works or what it looks like in the intermediate, like at each step in between. And by the end of that process, it's like there's no new functionality. It still is like one screen, and now there's another screen here. Yeah. But I feel a lot better about myself because somehow I've jiggled some numbers around and changed some pixels, and I end up like sleeping better at night because of that for whatever strange reason.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's always sort of, I guess programmers, to put it in the most general terms, right? It's usually rare to find people that actually still have that design sort of, DNA in them. I think most of the time that's mutually exclusive. Maybe I'm not being fair, but at least that's been my experience, right? That's usually, you have a guy that could like really build a great back end, but sort of the front end stuff is usually, I don't know. It's usually sort of Spartan and stuff. And I think with Castro, it somehow shows that you really needed to feel good about yourself with all of the, the pretty stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Well, some people have asked, like some people think that if they know that there's two of us, they think, oh, maybe that one is a designer and one is a developer.
Yeah, that was my next. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But I guess we're both just this kind of developers who are obsessed with design, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great combination, honestly.
Well, at least certain parts of design. There's some design things that we just don't like. drawing icons or like even like, glyphs or icons, or sometimes even like choosing colors for things. Like there's some of that stuff that my brain can't go there, and I don't trust myself, I guess, or I don't have the like skill set to do it, so it is like a subset of like certain things around like interactions and stuff that I feel like, okay, I'm going to get obsessed with this, and I think I can make it really nice. Actually, the term that me and Padraig always use is that like don't get hung up on it. Like if there's something that so the term is don't get hung up on it, but invariably like it's not that we're saying that, it's that we said, okay, sorry, I got hung up on it. Even if the other person is after telling us not to get hung up on it, you can get hung up on some detail and come back a day later and it's slightly different, but feels much better. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there, but some things around icons and stuff, I don't feel comfortable doing that kind of thing. So we do tend to like work with designers to do those types of tasks.
Well, yeah, but that's all sort of a set piece, right? It's not it's not a transition, I guess.
Yes, transition.
I'm very technical. Yeah, that's me. Okay,
maybe that's why I got obsessed with iOS. Like maybe that's what it was about iOS 7, because there was a bunch of new transition stuff. I really am obsessed with transitions, or even like the new swipe stuff that like Apple had, where like you swipe from the edge of the screen so you're like going back slowly, and like it's an interactive transition, so you can see and that's the thing that I spend so long like dragging really slowly over the screen and like seeing like all this, like watching things change slowly. When people actually use these things, they're not using them the way I am. As in they're just going back. But hopefully whatever obsessions I've had lead to it still feeling good in some way, even if I don't expect people to look at it in the same way as I do.
That's how you describe craft, right? I think that's the just doing it, like just paying way too much attention to everything, and then it sort of pays off because the whole is more than the sum of its parts, or whatever the hell that saying is. But yeah, so as far as app development goes, I did want to ask one more thing, like the reviews, right, and the support email, I guess. Mm-hmm. So how depressing is that in the long run? Because forget launch day and all of that stuff, and when like Castro, which is I guess a mature app now, right? But I imagine you still got the negative stuff, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. But
there's negative stuff.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just, have you my question is really like, have you learned to sort of not mind it as much? I guess, does a person actually get to learn that? That's my question. Or is it just constant, gets you down from time to time, I think?
It definitely can get us down from time to time. But I think there's certain things there are things that we realize. I mean, that maybe like the first time somebody said it, or like for a while, maybe it was like, we'd be upset about something that somebody didn't like or something that somebody said. But I mean, I think over time we kind of know, like, okay, we couldn't have done that anyway, because if we did that, then this, and this, and it wouldn't work. And like, so you kind of get used to like what to makes you feel bad and what doesn't. I'm not giving a very cohesive answer on this.
Yeah, but I guess that makes sense, because at least you know where the sort of negative stuff is going to come from, and if you've dismissed it before, right, it's easier to sort of take it in. If I'm understanding that right.
But sometimes it builds up over time as well. I mean, like because we've been concentrating on, because we have a few products now as well, that it gets like, and we're only 2 people. I mean, so we've been spending most of our time on Castro 2, and so I mean, we had been getting like there's a bunch of like bug reports that were coming in about unread for a while, and that it's not that we felt bad. Like we felt bad about them, but not just because of like, oh, I got this email and now I feel bad. Like I felt bad because I knew that bug was there, and that I wasn't sure when we were going to have time to fix it. I mean, that builds up over time, and like, you get more and more, like when people start reporting the same bugs, it builds up more and more on you. And then we kind of, since I was here, then we kind of just cracked a little bit, and we were like, okay, we took a break from Castro for a few days and like fixed a bunch of bugs in unread, and like made it work on the iPad Pro, and it added in like some stuff that had been like building up and that we kept hearing about in support emails, and that was always on the back of our mind as well. And it was like, okay, let's just do something about it and get it out of the way. So like that felt good.
Well, yeah, because it's like 3 apps and 2 people. I guess it's just the volume of it must get insane sometimes. At least with the when new versions are released.
Yeah. Well, when you decide to just rewrite an entire app as well, you don't necessarily make things much easier on yourself.
Yeah, and then, but see, that's the thing. But to like the user, it just looks like it's now Castro 2. Like that's all. You know what I mean? Like I know I'm always fascinated by the sort of just the amount of work, and I think people forget that, and that's why I like talking to indie devs mostly, because it's sort of I just want to sort of just kill the myth of I'm gonna make an app and make a bunch of money.
Yeah,
like just too many people have sort of burned out thinking that's what actually happens in the real world, and it really doesn't. That's why I like you too, because you have like 3 apps and you seem to be in it for the long run. And I don't know. I think there's more dignity in that, if that makes sense. Like when I hear you talk about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it kind of seems to happen a little bit less these days, I guess. But I mean, there's definitely a stage where, and it still does happen sometimes. But like if you like you're just having a conversation with somebody and you say that they ask what you do, you say you make apps. I usually just say software first. I mean, because then they start talking about their ideas, and sometimes they're good ideas, and sometimes they're terrible ideas. But my usual thing that I just say now is basically just, okay, that's kind of interesting. Like, do you want to invest like the next 6 months of your life into like just doing that to see if it's going to work for you? And they usually don't want to do that.
Oh yeah, I think that time no, but that's a great point, because I think that's how people imagine it, because it's this little thing on the phone, right? They just I think everybody that doesn't do any sort of programming or isn't into this stuff as much as I guess.
But that's totally. I mean, I understand that. I mean, that's like I'm not going around thinking like, oh, why don't people like respect these things enough, or like understand like how hard they are. Like it is, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's like a little thing on your phone.
Well, yeah, but still, even in like 2015, like even now, I could see you saying that in like 40 years ago, I guess. But like, I mean, like most of the shine is off the thing. At least that's why I hope. Because Jesus, I mean, because everybody would be a millionaire otherwise. Like if any of that held up, right? Except for you see, that's why I have a problem with the acquisition numbers of like WhatsApp and Instagram, because those are the bright suns that everybody then just burns out.
Yeah, they blind out the rest.
Yeah, basically, yeah, and at least for me, like most of the actual success stories, like Instagram is like winning the lottery. Like nobody really wins the lottery because the chances are so small, right? Even the person that actually wins it, like if you didn't win it, that guy just did not win the lottery.
Yeah.
Because it was just such a remote chance of that happening, right? Like the actual app developers, like people like you guys, right?
Have you seen that XOXO talk? I can't remember the guy who gave it, but it's like how to win the lottery or something like that.
Oh no, yeah.
It's a whole talk around basically around app development and comparing it to like buying the lottery ticket. It's much smarter than I just described it as. But
I'll try and find it.
XOXO win the lottery, something. Yeah. Google something like that, and you'll see it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one of those conferences. I wish I could go. Like that and Yule. I'm saying that right? Yule. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, those two. Yeah. Those are the two I'd actually like to go to, because everything else is just.
Last year. Happened to be in Portland at the same time, but I wasn't at the conference, unfortunately. But I've been at all the ULs, and UL is.
Well, you have to. It's a countryman thing, so
Yeah, exactly. Obliged.
Okay.
No, the first year the first year the location of it definitely was a factor. It was like, and I knew the guys who were organizing. I was like, they were organizing this thing in Dublin. I was around the corner from my house, and I was like, yeah, of course, I'm definitely going. But since then, I mean, it was so good that. Last year, I would plan to be in Ireland specifically. I mean, I do plan on being in Ireland specifically next year, just whenever that's on. So
yeah, okay, you're just making me sad now. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna go to the last 3 questions I always ask. And that's your hardware. We should start with your hardware. What exactly do you use? Yeah.
Okay. MacBook Pro, let me see. MacBook Pro Retina 15-inch, mid-2014.
I like how all you guys just say mid-2014. Like, that's a normal thing to say about a computer.
Oh, I just read it off the screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, but it's like when I have people that have nothing to do with tech on, right? It's like, what computer? I have an HP. That's as much as I get. You guys always tell me.
I have an Apple.
Yeah, it's silver. Is it silver?
It's silver.
Silver Apple. That's awesome. Okay, so that's your computer, then your phone and your tablet, I guess. And I'm asking you about your personal stuff, not the stuff you develop on, because I imagine you guys have a bunch of iOS devices you test on.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So my phone is the 6S.
Oh, okay.
It's my second one because I broke the screen the first time.
Okay.
And this screen is also broken. Pretty ugly case on it because I'm sick of dropping it.
Yeah, too late. I shouldn't like that. You're supposed to do that before the screen breaks.
Yeah, well, this one isn't too bad. I'm waiting until once Castro 2 comes out, I'm going to replace the screen on this one.
At least you have a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to withhold certain rewards as motivation. Not motivation to work on it, motivation to finish it. I could work on it as long as I want it. Actually finish it is the trickier part. I have an iPad. I'm not even the first ever Retina one.
So that's the 3, right? I think. Or 4.
I think 3. Yeah, before 30-pin connector. Or does it have? Yeah, it would have it's. I don't use it at all, so I have never felt obliged to update it.
You'd be surprised how many people tell me that. They all have iPads, and then it's just, every guest, I have an iPad. I say, I don't really use it that much. What a surprise the sales aren't going that well. That's kind of... Yeah, I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's just I'm not sure what to say else other than I don't even know if I don't think I even have it in Canada with me. Really? You travel a lot and you don't have it with you. That's an indictment. I'm
just so I just use my phone all the time. Even when I read on my phone, I do everything on my phone basically, and I work on my laptop.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much encapsulate the whole problem of the tablet. But yeah, okay. So on the software side, I'm gonna your apps are taken as read, right? But it's the 5 apps on your phone you really use a lot, really a lot.
Let me just
open it up.
Take a look.
Yeah,
Slack.
Okay, we're all on.
Well, I'm Slack, Tweetbot. Okay, I can't say my own apps.
Yeah, don't. Yeah.
5 of these little things on my phone, you mean?
Yeah. The stuff that gets made in 2 days and is in the App Store.
Yes, I mean,
those things. Yeah.
Other than Slack and Tweetbot, I use Facebook way too much and Messenger quite a lot.
Oh, the Facebook Messenger app.
Yeah, and then Weatherline is my weather app.
Okay, so then my last question, which is always the same. If you have to pick one physical thing that is not a person, so it can be your grandmother or whatever, that you feel like it was made for you, you might still have it, you might not, what would that be?
I have struggled with this for the past 2 days to try and come up with something. I'm so picky about everything. Other than when we talked about the first iPhone earlier on, everything I've always never thought this is definitely the way that I wanted it to be or whatever. So anyhow, the only the thing that, especially as well because I've been moving so much the past year and a bit, that I just not even much stuff that I have with me to even to think of. But one thing that I'm really happy with is my backpack.
Okay, well that's a good which what brand is it?
Northface. But it's not a backpack. So there's no it's actually not very practical in terms of if you were going to do lots of hiking and stuff. There's no support built into it. There's no big straps. It's it's this bright yellow thing. So I always see it really quickly as soon as comes off on the carousel at the airport. And because there's no big straps or extra things, it's basically a skin around my stuff that takes up as little space as possible. So it means, sometimes I do check it in, but it's small enough even to bring on carry-on if I want it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Northface yellow backpack, which I'm sure is not the brand name at all. I mean, not the model name, but
no, I'll just put down North Face backpack. I'll leave out the yellow part.
I've had that bag for like 8-9 years or something at this stage. So,
okay.
I was wondering lately. I was like, oh, if something happened to this bag, like, would I get the same one again, or would I like go looking and see? And I went with I was in a backpack shop where they had like just tons of different models, and I looked around a little bit. I wasn't looking for myself. I was just in there with somebody else, and I just said to myself, okay, if you ever need to replace your backpack, just get the same one again, because I get so overwhelmed, like looking at like all these different models. I'm like perfectly happy with the one I have. If anything happens to it, buy the same one.
Yeah, that's usually a good thing. And like with the backpacking gear, it really does last a while. So I think you're good getting the same thing again. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, NJ. It's been great.
Yeah. We should meet up again when you're in Slovenia.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll be back sooner. I'm not sure when I'm gonna be back, but I promised my friends there that I wasn't going to leave it another 7 years anyhow.
Or if I ever make it to Ul. So yeah,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's the thing. Anyway, thank you very much for taking the time, honestly.
Thanks, it's been great.
Okay.
Cheers.
Tole je bila 116. epizoda Aparatusa. Oisina najdete na Twitterju pod @prendio2, sprav številko 2. Jaz sem na Twitterju @nzt, tako da mi lahko tam težite. Sicer pa, če uporabljate iPhone, pogledajte to aplikacijo za podcaste poslušati, Castro, ki jo delata v super topu, ker je dejansko fajn. No. Za konc pa, kot vedno, ful hvala za vsem, ki ste že podparali Aparatus, spomnim, ki ga še boste. To lahko naredite tako, da greste na aparatus.si/podpri oziroma na /stalca, tako čist brez pretiravanja, če te podpore ne bi bilo, jaz tega ali ne bi več počel, ali pa definitivno ne bi počel v takem obsegu. Tako da še enkrat ful hvala. To je do naslednjič to. Lepe praznike, gre na to, da je december. Čau.